Hello everyone, welcome to your pharmacology class. And today we will discuss the last topic for this course, and that is all about antibiotics. Our goal is at the end of this lecture, you will be able to describe antibiotics, explain how they are selected, identify therapeutic actions, their indications, pharmacokinetics, contraindications, common adverse reaction, important drug-drug interactions, discuss the use of antibiotics across lifespan, compare and contrast prototype medications, and lastly, outline nursing considerations for patients receiving each class of antibiotic. Let's start our lecture by determining what is antibiotics. Now, ang antibiotics are chemicals. These are substances that is able to inhibit the growth of a specific bacteria or it causes the death of a susceptible bacteria. Mga future RNs, isipin ninyo na ang antibiotics ay parang mga sundalo na lumalaban sa specific microorganism, ang tawag natin bacteria. Hindi sila para sa mga viruses. Ibig sabihin, ang antibiotics natin ay maaaring mahirapan or hindi gumana para pagalingin or tanggalin yung mga signs and symptoms related sa flu or viral infection kagaya ng ubo, kagaya ng sipon. Dahil ang antibiotics ay target lamang nila ang mga bacteria present in the body of a certain individuals. Ito ang pinipili nating gamot kasi pipigilan nila ang pagdami ng bakterya sa loob ng katawan or diretsyong papatay sa mga bakterya sa loob ng ating katawan. Ang pagpili ng antibiotics na gagamitin ng isang pasyente or ng isang individual ay naaayon sa kung ano-ano ang mga factors na dapat ikino-consider natin. So, kagaya lamang to ng mga tools or ng mga bagay na kung meron tayong gagamitin, i-consider natin kung ano yung magiging epektibo or ano yung talagang gagamitin natin. So, isa sa mga factors ng kino-consider para sa pagpili ng antibiotics, number 1 is yung tinatawag nating type ng bacteria. Ibig sabihin, mahalaga sa healthcare providers na malaman nila anong klaseng bakterya ba ang papatayin. Ito ba ay gram-positive? Ito ba ay gram-negative? Or ito ba ay isang klase ng anaerobic bacteria? Pangalawang factor na kino-consider natin, saan ang infection? Anong bahagi ng katawan ang ititreat? Ito ba ay heart? Ito ba ay lungs? Ito ba ay nasa dugo? Nasa urinary tract? Nasa ating balat? Ikatlong factor is yung severity. Gaano kalala yung infection? Gaano kalala yung nararanasang signs and symptoms ng pasyente dahil sa presence ng bacteria in his or her system? Kino-consider din natin yung nagiging resulta ng test kung tawagin natin culture and sensitivity. Dito, nalalaman natin ano ba yung epektibong antibiotic na pwede mong ibigay dun sa mga present na bacteria on a certain sample, certain submitted sample. And lastly, kino-consider din natin yung mga factors patungkol sa pasyente. Halimbawa, yung kanyang edad. Bata ba ang pasyente? Matanda? Adult? Young adult? Lalaki o babae ba ang pasyente? Buntis ba ang pasyente? Or may iba't iba pang diagnosed medical problem sa pasyente, kagaya ng kidney and liver problems. Merong dalawang klase ng mode of action ang antibiotics. Ito yung mga terminolohiya kung tawagin natin bactericidal and bacteriostatic. Ano ang ipinagkaiba ng dalawa? Kapag sinabi nating bactericidal, ibig sabihin nito ang antibiotic pinapatay ang bakterya. Kapag naman sinabi nating bacteriostatic, pinipigilan ng antibiotic ang pagdami ng bakterya para maubos sila ng ating immune system. So, uulitin ko, when you say bactericidal, remember that suffix "cidal", there is a killing. So, the drug will kill the bacteria. Now, the bacteriostatic, the term static, it will help stop the growth of your bacteria. Now, antibiotics, these are substances produced by a microorganism that is capable of inhibiting the growth or killing other microorganism. Ang ibig sabihin nito, may mga microorganisms daw kagaya nga ng bacteria na nakakagawa ng natural chemicals. Ngayon, ang mga chemicals na ito ay kayang pigilan ang pagdami ng ibang bakterya o kaya naman diretsyong papatayin ang mga bakterya. So, naintindihan ba? So, para mas maunawaan, let me use examples, no? Meron tayong mga substances kagaya ng penicillium. Ang penicillium ay isang uri ng fungus. So, ito yung isa sa mga importanteng bahagi ng antibiotic natin, ang tawag penicillin. So, ito yung ginagawa natin to form the penicillin. O kaya naman meron tayong tinatawag na Streptomyces bacteria. Si Streptomyces bacteria naman ay essential in the formation of your antibiotics streptomycin, at the same time tetracycline, na kung saan in simple terms, may mga microorganism or mikrobyo na gumagawa ng panglaban sa kapwa niya mikrobyo. Okay? So, ito yung unang pinagkukunan ng antibiotics. Now, sabi, antibiotics, it is effective for many diseases of livestock. Ang ibig sabihin nito, ang antibiotics daw ay unahing ginamit sa hayop. Ibig sabihin, tinest muna sa hayop bago maging common itong gamitin sa tao. Ginamit ito kasi para gumaling ang mga hayop na mayroong mga bacterial infections, and at the same time, maiwasan ang pagkalat ng sakit within the external environment, kagaya sa farm, and mapanatiling healthy yung mga hayop. Bakit? Kasi mabilis magkasakit ang mga livestock or yung mga hayop natin in a farm, na kung saan kailangan gumaling nila agad para safe yung kakainin or safe yung maibebenta ng mga livelihood animals sa society or sa mga tao. Ang antibiotics din, class, isa pa sa konsepto nito is these are convenient and efficient in treating certain conditions. Ibig sabihin, madaling gamitin ang antibiotics. Mabilis kumilos sa mga kondisyon or sa mga medical problems or diseases ang gamot na to, basta ang nagiging cause or ang nagdudulot ay mga bacteria. Okay? Maraming iba't ibang forms ang antibiotic. Pwede itong ipainom, oral preparation, ibig sabihin pwede itong in the form of a tablet, in a capsule, kung bata ang iinom, pwede tayong magbigay ng syrup ang ipainom sa bata. Pwede din itong via parenteral or injection, and topical o kaya naman pwedeng ipahid over the skin or within the integumentary. Madaling i-prescribe ang gamot na ito depende sa infection na maoobserbahan or maa-assess sa pasyente. May specific antibiotic para sa specific bacteria. Ibig sabihin, may mga cases kasi mabilis bumababa ang symptoms kagaya ng lagnat, pamamaga or swelling, mga pain or kirot, at ang pagbibigay ng antibiotics nakakatulong sa pagpigil ng complications, life-saving sa malulubha or mga severe infections na kung saan mabilis at madaling gamitin ang antibiotics, lalo na kung bacterial ang nagiging cause ng effects. May iba't ibang classifications ang antibiotics. Una na dito, yung tinatawag nating producing microorganisms. Base ito sa kung sinong microorganism ang pinanggalingan ng antibiotic. Ibig sabihin nito, para kung sino ang manufacturer ng antibiotic sa natural world. Gaya nga ng in-example ko kanina, sabi ko sa inyo kanina, may mga antibiotics kagaya ng streptomycin, excuse me, ang kanyang pinanggalingan is the bacteria. Ang pangalan ng bacteria na yon is your streptomyces. O kaya naman kagaya ni penicillin. Si penicillin galing siya sa isang fungus na ang pangalan ng fungus natin is penicillium. So, ibig sabihin nito, kung saan nanggaling ang antibiotic, yun yung isa sa kino-consider natin or yun yung isa sa pinaggagamitan natin. Yung ikalawang classification, may mga antibiotics based on their metabolic pathway of biosynthesis. Ito naman nakabase sa paraan kung paano binubuo ang antibiotic sa loob ng organism na gumawa nito. Kumbaga, ano ang recipe, ano ang pathway na ginamit ng bacteria or ng fungus para mabuo ang antibiotic. So, this aspect or this classification is more on biochemistry, used mostly by researchers, not your bedside nurses. Pero importante pa din ang grupo ng gamot na to, lalo na kapag pinatutukuyan natin is the drug development. Drug development. Halimbawa, si penicillin. Paano ba si penicillin nagagawa? Si penicillin nagagawa ito using your beta-lactam biosynthesis pathway. So that is an example of this classification of your antibiotics. Basta remember, with regards to metabolic pathways, paano ginawa yung antibiotic sa loob ng microorganism. The third one is what we call activity spectrum. Ano naman ito? Ito naman yung classification na base sa kung gaano kalawak ang kayang patayin or base sa kung gaano kalawak ang kayang pigilan ng antibiotic. Kapag nakikita niyo yung salitang spectrum, yung lawak ng masasakupan or yung lawak ng magiging epekto ng ating gamot. Kung baga gaano kalawak ang sakop ng laban niya or yung gaano kalawak yung masasakop niya na magkakaroon siya ng epekto. Pagdating sa activity spectrum, meron tayong tinatawag na narrow spectrum. Ibig sabihin ng narrow, konting bakterya lamang ang kanyang target. At kapag sinabi naman nating broad spectrum, ito yung mga nadidinig ninyong broad spectrum antibiotic. Ito naman, ibig sabihin ng broad, mas marami ang kaya niyang mag-cause siya ng effect. Madalas sa broad spectrum, ito damay. Parehong gram-positive at gram-positive at gram-negative. Ayan. Kaya ang mga very good examples ng mga gamot natin under this category, meron tayong tinatawag tetracycline, meron din tayong tinatawag fluoroquinolones. So, kumbaga, para itong mga general soldier, mas maraming kayang labanan. Ayan. And last classification natin, meron tayong tinatawag na chemical structure. Ito ang pinaka-importanting classification pagdating sa profession natin in the nursing practice. Kasi most antibiotics are classified to their chemical structure dahil nga it predicts the mechanism of action, it predicts the side effects, it predicts drug interaction, it helps in identifying cross-allergy. Now, meron tayong mga iba't ibang major chemical structure group under this classification. So, meron tayong tinatawag na mga aminoglycosides. Yan ang suffix ng mga aminoglycosides mo will always be mycin. I will repeat. Isa sa mga major chemical structure group natin is your aminoglycoside. And the suffix that you will remember will be mycin. Meron din tayong tinatawag na mga carbapenems. What about with carbapenems? Ito naman, yung isa ding grupo ng gamot. Mostly ang mga gamot natin dito, suffix that you will remember will be your penems. And then we also have your four generation cephalosporins. So from the first to fourth generation types of your antibiotics. It started with your cephalexin, down to cefepime. Then meron din tayong fluoroquinolones, your floxacin, then your penicillins, your sulfonamides. Pagdating kay sulfonamides, that is your cotrimoxazole, tetracyclines, macrolides, antimycobacterials. When you say antimycobacterials, these are your tuberculosis medications and all your other antibiotics. So in simple terms, kapag pinag-uusapan ang mga chemical structure, ito yung grupo ng antibiotics base sa kanilang chemical formula at structure ng kanilang antibiotics. Okay, now let's start with one of those important classifications. Ang tawag natin sa kanya is your aminoglycoside. These antibiotics, ang target nito will always be your serious gram-negative infections. I will repeat. Please highlight that part. Your aminoglycosides target is to treat your serious gram-negative infections. Ibig sabihin, ang iyong mga aminoglycosides, they are bactericidal. When we say bactericidal, pinipigilan ang protein synthesis ng bacteria by what? It kills your bacteria. Now, common medications natin under aminoglycoside, meron tayong tinatawag na gentamicin, meron ka din tinatawag amikacin, tobramycin, and these medications, always remember kapag pinag-uusapan aminoglycoside, remember your kidney, remember your ears. Kasi ang wina-watch out natin as we give this medication to our patients, number one is nephrotoxic. When you say nephrotoxic, your drug is dangerous in the function of your kidneys. Kapag naman sinabi mong ototoxic, ito naman ang problema natin is the ears or within the ears of our patient. Risk si patient in experiencing pagkabingi or deafness. Kaya, yun ang ibig sabihin ng salitang ototoxic. This table will help us determine the different drug sample of an aminoglycoside. One of those antibiotics is what we call amikacin. Now, amikacin is indicated for those types of infections caused by a serious gram-negative. We can administer amikacin, let's say for a short-term drug therapy, we can give this via intramuscular. But amikacin can be administered via intravenous route. For Pseudomonas infections, our aminoglycoside drug of choice is what we call gentamicin. Gentamicin is administered via ophthalmic route, topical. It could also be given intravenous, intramuscular, and even intrathecal. Now, neomycin can be given or can be administered topical or oral preparation, and these are very useful when it comes to suppression of the gastrointestinal flora, hepatic coma, and those patients experiencing infection within their integumentary or yung mga meron tayong tinatawag na mga sugat or wounds on their skin. Streptomycin can be administered via intramuscular, and streptomycin is part of the combination therapy for the disease known to be tuberculosis. This is the fourth medication on that quad tab. And then we also have your tobramycin. Tobramycin is beneficial for cases of ocular infections, cystic fibrosis, Pseudomonas infections as well. Now, tobramycin can be given ophthalmic, and then there are also intravenous administration, short-term drug therapy intramuscular, and tobramycin can also be administered via nebulization. Similar in other drug study, nursing considerations as we administer antibiotics is also important. It's primarily because antibiotics are also substances that enters our body and causes positive or negative effects among individuals, among our patients. One of the important nursing considerations as we give aminoglycosides, binabantayan natin ang kidney function ng patient. Specifically, pagdating sa mga areas, please write this down because I did not include this in the PowerPoint. Please include the monitoring of what we call blood urea nitrogen, or we call it most of the time BUN, and at the same time creatinine levels. We also observe and monitor the urine output of our patients. As much as possible, hindi dapat ito, dapat ito ay greater than or equal to 30 ml per hour. Watch out for any signs of acute kidney injury. Specifically, ang aminoglycosides kasi may pagkakataon or maaari itong maipon within our kidneys as the kidneys filter all the substances in our body. And if your patient is taking aminoglycosides, pwede itong mag-stagnate or pwede itong maipon in our kidneys resulting to damages. Isa pang binabantayan natin is the patient's ears. Sa ears kasi or dito sa bahagi ng katawan natin, nangyayari yung tinatawag nating kondisyon, one of the negative effects of the medication, which is ototoxicity. Now, it is important that nurses, we closely monitor our patients receiving aminoglycosides kung nakakaranas sila ng pagbabago sa kanilang pandinig, sa kanilang tenga, na kung saan mas madalas ang verbalization ni patient may loss of hearing. O kaya naman, there is something ringing in their ears, ang tawag natin doon in medical field is tinnitus. Now, since the ear is affected, patients can also experience difficulty in maintaining their balance. Yung iba may verbalization ng related yung kanilang signs and symptoms to vertigo. Now, the ear problems happen, it's because aminoglycosides can damage cranial nerve number 8. Next is monitor the peak and trough levels of your aminoglycosides. This is very significant kasi kapag mataas ang peak, ibig sabihin your patients are at risk for toxicity. Kapag high trough naman si patient, ibig sabihin nito, there is what we call drug accumulation in specific areas of the body, kidneys, and ears. Kaya anong nangyayari? Nadadamage sila. Okay? Now, kapag naman may low levels ng aminoglycosides in the serum or in the blood, then definitely your drug therapy is not effective or there is an ineffective treatment with your patients. Now, always remember your aminoglycosides, they are medications that we can categorize under narrow therapeutic medications. Narrow therapeutic medications. Assess the hydration status of your patients as well. Dapat they are well hydrated to protect their kidneys. Encourage fluid intake, lalo na water, unless contraindicated kay pasyente natin. Okay? But as much as possible, dapat ini-encourage natin silang uminom ng tubig. Watch out for any signs of dehydration. That's why we need to do this we need to do this intervention among our patients. Always assess dehydration status. The fifth one is avoid mixing aminoglycosides with other nephrotoxic medication or any other ototoxic drugs. Ano-ano pa ba yung mga gamot under nephrotoxic category? So dito papasok sina vancomycin, amphotericin B, NSAIDs, Even your loop diuretics, specifically your furosemide. Kasi ang nangyayari dito, the reason behind is sabay-sabay na kidney ear damaging drugs ang mga ito. So ibig sabihin, kung sasabay pa si aminoglycosides along with these drugs, mas mataas ang chances ng toxicity among our patients. Number six, use cautiously in elderly or those clients na mayroong renal impairment. Ang kadahilanan nito, mas magiging mabagal ang drug clearance at mas mataas naman ang risk for toxicity. Assess for neuromuscular blockade. Observe for the following. Always remember this. So if you could write this down. Muscle weakness, respiratory depression. It's because your aminoglycosides can worsen myasthenia gravis or even paralysis. Kaya watch out for any signs of a neuromuscular blockage. Then, it is a must that nurses get cultures before starting the medication. Kasi this will help determine kung tama na ba yung antibiotic na magtitreat ng infection ni patient. 9 is explain to the patient the importance of completing the full course para hindi mag-develop ng resistance within or a resistance to antibiotics si patient. And last but not the least, we have to evaluate any improvement of infection. So, dapat makikita natin if there is an improvement of infection, bababa na yung kanyang body temperature. And then when it comes to the blood tests, ang kanyang WBC or ang kanyang white blood cell, it's trending down. There is also what we call improved clinical symptoms. Importante din yan. For you to remember aminoglycosides, just remember our mnemonics amino. Amino, that stands for, number one, assess culture first. So, bago ka magbigay ng aminoglycoside, it's a must that we check culture first among our patients. Culture out of those samples. M, for monitoring the kidney, ears, peak and trough among our patients. I, that stands for increased fluids. Hydration is a must. N, no other auto or nephrotoxic drugs. We cannot give at the same time those medications that will further damage the ears and the kidneys. And last, O, O for observe for neuromuscular weakness. The second group of antibiotics, we have the carbapenems. Now, carbapenems are your broad-spectrum antibiotics. They are effective against gram-positive as well as gram-negative bacteria. Now, ang mga carbapenems natin ay mga broad-spectrum antibiotics. Ibig sabihin, kaya nilang patayin ang mas maraming klase ng bacteria. Gaya nga ng nabanggit natin, both groups of the gram-positive and the gram-negative, kaya nilang puksain. Ginagamit ang carbapenems na mga antibiotics across diseases or illnesses, lalo na kapag malubha or resistant in infection ang nararanasan ng isang patient natin. Now, what is the mechanism of action ng gamot na ito? They are bactericidal. Ibig sabihin, pinapatay, pinupuksa nila ang bacteria hindi lamang sa pagpigil ng kanilang population or sa pagpigil ng kanilang pagdami. The carbapenems inhibit the cell wall. Not only that, even the membrane synthesis ng bacteria natin. Pinipigilan nila ang bacteria na gumagawa ng cell membrane or ng cell wall, at kapag hindi nakapag-create ng wall ang bacteria, mas madali silang ma-destroy, mas madali silang mamatay. Ang carbapenems, para silang demolition team. So, para mas madali ninyong maintindihan, let us use a simple analogy. Gaya ng nabanggit ko, ang mga carbapenems natin ay parang demolition team na sila yung sumisira ng mismong pinakapader or wall ng isang bacteria para mas madali silang ma-penetrate, at once they are penetrated, madali silang ma-destroy, madali silang mamatay. Now, saan ba natin kailangan gamitin ang mga carbapenems? Gaya nga ng nabanggit ko na kanina, ang mga carbapenems natin ay importante, especially to those classified infections na malala at serious. Ibig sabihin, hindi lamang bas ito mild or simpleng infections like your cough and colds. Dito yung mga infections na sinasabi nating may serious na epekto sa katawan. Those are your intra-abdominal infections. That includes appendicitis, that includes peritonitis, mga severe forms of urinary tract infection, lalo na yung mga complicated UTI, yung bang paulit-ulit or resistant na to standard antibiotics yung isang patient natin diagnosed with a severe UTI. Those with skin infections, kagaya ng mga big infected lesions, yung mga diabetic wounds, kaya kasama yan. And then we also have your bone and joint infections, such as your osteomyelitis, septic arthritis, gynecological infections like your PID, your pelvic inflammatory disease, mga postpartum or post-surgical infections. And bottom line, carbapenems ang pinaprescribe ng doktor kapag malalaking laban ang kailangan nating gawin para mapuksa ang isang infection, especially in a hospital setting. These are the group of drug samples under the classification of carbapenems. We have your doripenem na ito ibinibigay intravenous every 8 hours. Usually, it is good for 5 to 14 days. This is very useful in cases such as intra-abdominal infections, urinary tract infections like your pyelonephritis. We also have ertapenems. This can be given both intravenous and intramuscular. Can be given within 5 to 14 days. And ito naman, effective in cases kagaya ng community-acquired pneumonia, mga genitourinary tract infections, acute pelvic infections. We also have imipenem, and then imipenem is almost the same with our ertapenem that we can give this intravenous and intramuscular. Nga lang, out of all these drug samples of carbapenems, the one that we can give in our pediatric patients is the imipenem. Okay? Especially those children diagnosed with respiratory infections, especially the severe ones, intra-abdominal infections, gynecological infections, bone and joint infections, and other polymicrobic infections. And last drug sample, we also have meropenem. Meropenem can only be given intravenous, 5 to 14 days as well. And this is the drug of choice for patients diagnosed with bacterial meningitis. Important nursing interventions pagdating sa pag-administer ng carbapenems. First is assess for any allergic reaction, especially those carbapenems that is being given alongside with a penicillin or cephalosporin. Because your carbapenems are beta-lactam antibiotics. Please write it down. These are beta-lactam, and when you say beta-lactam antibiotics, there is what we call cross-allergy risk. So ano yung mga babantayan natin? Ano yung mga i-observe natin among our patients? Number 1, rashes. There are patients na nagkakaroon din ng hives, ng mga pamamantal sa kanilang katawan. Most importantly, if patients manifest shortness of breath, yan, it could be an indication that the patient is already suffering from an anaphylactic reaction, a severe form of hypersensitivity or allergic reaction. And this is very important that we need to assess our patient and document if there are history of allergies to penicillin, and we need to place or warn the rest of the members of the healthcare team and make sure that there is a cautionary identification within your patient to prevent anaphylactic reaction leading or may lead to anaphylactic shock. The second important nursing consideration as we give carbapenims, we need to monitor the gastrointestinal side effects. It's quite common among antibiotics pagdating sa mga side effects affecting the digestive system or the gastrointestinal tract. Isa sa babantayan natin, of course, nausea and vomiting. There is also diarrhea and abdominal cramps. Now, alert for any manifestations that can cause C. difficile associated diarrhea. So, observe or watch out for any frequent watery stool. At the same time, we need to watch for central nervous system effects. So, those manifestations, signs, and symptoms related to the nervous system function. So, that includes headache, that includes dizziness, seizures, no? Lalo na for your imipenem. So, please write it down. For imipenem, one of our common side effects, central nervous system, is seizure. Then there are also episodes of confusion. So use cautiously in patients, especially those with identified epileptic episode or those patients already suffering from a central nervous system disorder. Monitor the kidney function as well. That is also important because your carbapenims are excreted, mostly excreted via kidneys. So again, if kidneys ang pinag-uusapan natin, watch out for the blood urea nitrogen, watch out or monitor the creatinine, especially the urine output of our patient. If there are significant results, inform the prescriber or inform the attending physician, adjust the dose if the patient has a renal impairment as well. Check for superinfection because your carbapenims is a broad spectrum. They can kill good bacteria as well. So check or observe if there are presence of oral thrush, any vaginal yeast infection, signs of C. diff. Ibig sabihin kapag C. diff, ang binabantayan natin is the watery stool, nagda-diarrhea, frequent diarrhea si patient. Make sure that you administer carbapenims intravenous properly and make sure that you ensure the correct dilution. So please write this down as we give intravenous administration of this antibiotic. Check or ensure the correct dilution. Check for the rate. Make sure that is the correct rate because this will prevent vein irritation and use a dedicated line if possible. Monitor for improvement of infection. So evaluate the body temperature of your patient, check for the white blood cell count, any decrease in redness, any decrease in swelling or pain or discomfort that your patients are experiencing. So basically, check the patient's overall clinical improvement. Now, for those experiencing seizure or epileptic episodes, avoid giving valproic acid. Valproic acid and carbapenims, these are very important drug interaction because the carbapenims can decrease the effects of the valproic acid. Valproic acid is one of our anti-seizure medication. So, ibig sabihin, if magsasabay ang gamot na to, ang antibiotic at ang anti-seizure na to, anong pwedeng mangyari? Pwedeng bumaba or pwedeng mawalan ng bisa si valproic acid na kung saan maglalagay sa alanganin sa ating pasyente na pwede siyang magkaroon ng seizure episode. Ibig sabihin, mas magiging mataas ang kanyang risk for another seizure episode because of the decreased therapeutic action of valproic acid. And of course, we need to educate our patients, especially those important reactions, those important drug-drug or substance interaction ng ating antibiotic. So, one of those health teaching natin, let me enumerate them or you may write this down. Report diarrhea immediately. Inform the nurse if there are rashes or any difficulty of breathing. And most importantly, complete the course of treatment, especially if your patients will be discharged and need to continue the drug therapy at home. For you to remember carbapenims, let me give this acronym, okay? Carbacare, okay? Carba for carbapenims. Carba stands for check allergies, assess GI system, especially the risk for C. diff. Again, going back to allergies, remember the cross sensitivity with cephalosporins with penicillin. Renal monitoring, those kidney function tests natin. That includes creatinine and BUN. Beware of seizures, those especially those taking valproic acids. And A for administer IV properly. CARE stands for check for superinfection. A for avoid valproic acid. Remember that drug-drug interaction. R for review improvement. So watch out for any alteration in the body temperature, decrease in the body temperature, check the WBC count, and any other signs and symptoms related to infection. And E for educating our patients about this antibiotic, carbapenems. Now let's move on to the third classification of antibiotic. Antibiotics, these are your cephalosporins. Ito naman ay isang klase ng antibiotic na halos kamukha ni penicillin. Kasi pareho ang structure nila at pareho ang paraan nila para patayin ang bakterya. Ibig sabihin, kung paano gumagana ang penicillin, ganun din gumagana ang cephalosporins. Kaya kung allergic ang patients natin with penicillin, definitely there is a high chances, a high possibility that your patients are also allergic with cephalosporins. So always remember the concept of your cross-sensitivity. Now, let's move on. Paano naman gumagana ang cephalosporins? Now, our cephalosporins, they break or they destroy directly the cell wall of the bacteria. Ibig sabihin, if the cell wall will be destroyed, then definitely, mas mabilis na madedestroy ang bacteria kasi mabilis siyang mapepenetrate ng antibiotics. At mabilis na matatarget ang kanyang DNA, mabilis siyang mamamatay. Okay? We have 4 generations of cephalosporins. So, ibig sabihin, class, isipin nyo na para silang upgraded levels, no? So, parang computer game lang siya na yung antibiotic family ng cephalosporins, may iba't iba siyang levels. Well, in fact, there are 4. Let's start with the higher the generation, mas malakas or mas broad spectrum siya. So by the way, yun yung kanyang konsepto. When it comes to the levels of your cephalosporin, the higher the generation, mas malakas yung antibiotic at mas nagiging broad spectrum siya. Again, if your antibiotic is broad spectrum, it can destroy, it can kill almost all types of your bacteria. Now, let's start with the first generation cephalosporin. These are your first level cephalosporin. Kumbaga, ito yung pinakaunang stage. Now, the coverage of this antibiotics, they are strong against your gram-positive bacteria and some gram-negative bacteria as well. And ito, class, yung mga first generation cephalosporins natin, they are best especially for the gram-positive and some gram-negative bacteria natin. Usually, the first generation are being administered for skin infections, wound infections, yung mga simple forms of urinary tract infection, mga uncomplicated UTI natin. Now, the second group of the cephalosporins, we have your second generation. Ito naman, compared to first generation, yung second generation, mas mahina sila for the gram-positive, but mas malakas sila for the gram-negative. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, for your second generation, they are into gram-negative bacteria. Now, they are effective for your influenza infections, yung mga Haemophilus influenza, Enterobacter natin, okay? And ang mga second generations natin ginagamit for respiratory infections, mga otitis media, and sinusitis. The third generation cephalosporins naman, they are weak against gram-positive but very strong against gram-negative. Why this is important? Marami kasing tinatawag na mga hospital-acquired gram-negative infections na itong mga third generation cephalosporins natin, tumatalab ito sa kanila. Okay, tumatalab sila dito. Kaya ibig sabihin, if hospital-acquired, lalo na ang sakit ni patient, we're not into second generation, but prescriber will choose your third generation. Especially those types of infection, kagaya kung tawagin natin septicemia. Please write this down. When we say septicemia, these are your severe form of infection. Some of them are hospital-acquired. Then we also have your other forms of infections, kagaya ng meningitis. Ibig sabihin, ang third generation cephalosporins natin has the capability to cross the blood-brain barrier to treat or to manage infection in the brain of our patients. And of course, last but not the least, yung sabi ko nga kanina, habang tumataas ang level, mas nagiging mabisa, mas nagiging malakas ang antibiotic. Meaning, our fourth generation cephalosporins, these are the latest generation of this antibiotic. Pero, we're not yet finished with we're not yet finished in studying this group of cephalosporins. Nga lang, nakitaan na sila ng mga eksperto ng strong properties against both gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. Kaya ito ang pinipili ng mga doktor kapag dating sa mga patients with serious infections. Those patients with resistant to several forms of bacteria. Kaya parang ito yung nagiging all-around warrior ng cephalosporins natin. Yung level 4 or yung 4th generation cephalosporins natin. This table will help us identify what are those antibiotics in each classification, okay? So we have drug samples under first generation cephalosporins. These are given via oral preparation. So ibig sabihin ipinapainom sa pasyente. Ito yung mga examples ng cephalosporins natin. We have your cephalexin, and we also have your cefadroxil. Okay? Now, for the second generation cephalosporins, cefaclor is one of our very common oral antibiotic, second generation. Pero when it comes to parenteral administration, doctors used to prescribe cefuroxime, lalo na yung mga patients admitted in the hospital. Cefuroxime is one of the common antibiotics that they prescribe. Kasi wide range of infections ang kaya niyang i-address. Now, for the third generation, we have the ceftriaxone and the ceftazidime na kung saan these types of your antibiotics can be given intramuscular or intravenous. And for the fourth generation, ito yung sinabi ko kanina na they are the promising antibiotics, though we already saw the strong potential properties or the strong properties of this medication that they can kill both the gram-positive and the gram-negative types of bacteria. We're not yet finished studying or determining other capabilities of these medications. But then again, these are the fourth generation. These are the highest forms of cephalosporins at the moment, at present. We have your cefditoren, cefepime, and your ceftarolin. Now, it's very important, future nurses, that you know the interventions that we need to consider when it comes to this group of antibiotics. Unahin na natin yung identification ng tinatawag na penicillin allergy. Remember your cross sensitivity. Always watch out for any rash, any presence of itchiness or hives, any difficulty of breathing, or any signs of anaphylaxis. There are also patients experiencing gastrointestinal symptoms. Common side effects natin, of course, we have nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. There is also abdominal discomfort. Watch out for any C. difficile associated diarrhea, especially your cephalosporins can wipe out normal gut flora. Kaya check for any of the following. Make sure you write this down because I did not include this in the presentation. If we will watch out for C. difficile associated diarrhea, we need to report this immediately. What are we going to report? Number one, the frequent watery stool. Second, foul-smelling stool or feces. Abdominal cramping verbalized by your patients. Kapag ito na ang nararanasan ni patient, the prescriber needs to be informed and you need to address all these problems immediately. Next important nursing consideration is to monitor the kidney function of your patient. Again, papasok na naman dito ang mga concerns natin when it comes to the urine output of your patients, BUN levels, creatinine levels, and if your patients are those diagnosed with chronic kidney disease or there is a renal failure or renal impairment, we need to be cautious or we need to make sure that we inform the physician or we need to assess our patients properly. Avoid alcohol as much as possible because there is what we call disulfiram-like reaction. Ibig sabihin nito, may mga ibang cephalosporins that causes severe reaction kapag nasasabayan ng alcohol. Anong reaction yung babantayan natin? You may write this down as well. Yung iba merong flushing, merong vomiting, headache, and then yung isa sa ina-assess agad natin if your patient is under drug therapy, cephalosporins, and then uminom ng alcohol, chest pain, and hypotension. I will repeat, especially those medications, no, na mga cephalosporins natin, na kung saan we need to educate our patients no alcohol while on this drug therapy, especially 72 hours after the administration of the drug. Okay? Or even at the last 72 hours ng kanyang drug therapy. So again, ano yung i-watch out natin if um, your patient took cephalosporin and then along with alcohol, ibig sabihin yung drug-drug interaction with an alcohol, importantly is the chest pain and the hypotension. Okay? Chest pain and the hypotension. And take note of that, no alcohol during drug therapy, especially 72 hours after the last dose of your patient. Monitor for any bleeding tendencies because your cephalosporins, it interferes with the vitamin K. Ibig sabihin nito, risk for bleeding, risk for hemorrhage si patient. So, watch out for any reported bruising, epistaxis or bleeding within the nasal area, bleeding ng gums as well. Check for any superinfection. This is a broad spectrum, so there is a possibility of any signs and symptoms related to mga vaginal infections, skin fungi infections, even oral thrush. Administer deep intramuscular infections, administer deep intramuscular injections slowly. There are cephalosporins that are painful intramusculars, okay? Intramuscular administration. Use the Z-track technique, rotate the sites, and you may use warm compress after administration. So I will repeat, it's quite painful for other or for some cephalosporin to be given intramuscular. And to address this concern, deep IM kasi binibigay, use a Z-track technique. Then, you may rotate sites of injection and then apply warm compress after administration. Okay? Then, ensure proper intravenous administration. Now, if the cephalosporins is advised to give intravenous, give it slowly. I will repeat. Give your cephalosporin intravenous slowly. Monitor for phlebitis. What is phlebitis? There is an infection within your IV site. Flush the line properly. So you need to prepare your water for flushing, especially after giving your antibiotics. And then health teaching is very important. Make sure that you educate your patient about take the full course of their drugs. Report those rashes or those difficulty of breathing. Remember the cross sensitivity. Avoid alcohol, watch out for diarrhea, make sure that they maintain or your patient maintain hydration. And of course, for you to remember, cephalosporin, Cephasate. So what about with Cephasate? C for check for cross allergy. E, educate, so no alcohol. P, prevent superinfection. H, hydration. Then kidney monitoring is a must. Assess gastrointestinal tract and C. diff signs. Safe S for slow IV, slow intramuscular administration. A, assess for bleeding. So make sure that you're aware of what we call vitamin K interference. F for flushing the IV line. That is very important, nurses. Flush the IV line. We need to prevent phlebitis. And E, for evaluating improvement, especially the body temperature of your patient and the levels of the white blood cells. Sumunod naman na grupo ng antibiotics natin is yung tinatawag naman nating fluoroquinolones. Ang mga fluoroquinolones ay mga klase, again, a broad spectrum antibiotics na kayang labanan ang maraming iba't ibang uri ng bakterya. Pero mas kilala ang grupo ng antibiotics na to sa pagiging malakas laban sa mga gram-negative bacteria katulad ng E. coli, Klebsiella, Pseudomonas, Shigella, Salmonella, kasi ang ating fluoroquinolones, meron siyang kapasidad na pumasok within the bacterial cell by passive diffusion through the channels in the bacteria's cell membrane. Okay? I will repeat. Kayang pumasok, okay? Or kaya nitong magpapasok ng tubig sa butas ng sponge ng bakterya natin na hindi niya kailangan ng energy. Ibig sabihin, ginagamitan lamang niya ng paraan kung tawagin natin yung pagpasok ng tubig, passive diffusion. Okay? Ganun lamang kasimple ang ginagawa ng fluoroquinolones natin. Now, your fluoroquinolones, it interferes with the action of the DNA enzymes for growth and reproduction. Ito yung pinaka-unique at pinaka-importanting mechanism ng fluoroquinolones. Kaya mas madali mo siyang matatandaan as compared to other antibiotics. Ibig sabihin, the fluoroquinolones sa loob ng bacteria, meron tayong tinatawag na DNA enzymes. Ito mismo yung mga enzymes na responsible sa pag-copy ng DNA, sa pag-ayos ng DNA, sa pag-reproduce ng bacteria. Itong enzymes yung target ni fluoroquinolones. Once the antibiotic enters the bacteria itself, these enzymes are being inhibited or binablock sila agad. So anong nangyayari? Hindi nagre-reproduce ang bacteria. Hindi siya makapag-duplicate ng DNA. Hindi siya makapag-repair. Ending, namamatay ang bacteria. Okay? Now, your fluoroquinolones has an advantage of a unique way of disrupting bacterial activity. Yun nga yung nabanggit natin kanina. Dahil nga ang target niya is the DNA enzyme, hindi lamang cell wall or protein synthesis kagaya ng mga ibang antibiotics. So yung DNA enzyme ang isa sa nagpa-unique sa klase ng antibiotic na ito. Ibig sabihin, effective sila sa infections, lalong-lalo na those resistant sa iba pang antibiotics. So marunong ang fluoroquinolones na sumalakay sa ibang bahagi ng bacteria na hindi target ng ordinary or typical antibiotics natin. Kaya powerful ang fluoroquinolones lalo na when it comes to gram-negative organisms natin. Kaya ito ginagamit or indicated to those cases. Please write this down. Complicated UTI, pyelonephritis, gastroenteritis, pneumonia, mga skin infections, bone infections, and joint infections. Now, this table help us identify those different drug samples under the classification of fluoroquinolones. We have your ciprofloxacin, which can be administered oral. We can also give this parenteral and topical, especially those with skin infections. We also have phenofloxacin. Now, your phenofloxacin, out of all other fluoroquinolones, your phenofloxacin is the one used as an otic drop. Kasi ito yung effective especially to those condition kung tawagin natin swimmer's ear. Ang tawag natin sa sakit na yan is acute otitis externa. There is also what we call gemifloxacin, levofloxacin. Levofloxacin is very good, especially those with respiratory infection, urinary tract infection, and this is levofloxacin is also considered as part of the treatment after exposure to anthrax. So if you could highlight that one. Moxifloxacin, we also have ofloxacin. Those are your fluoroquinolones. So floxacin is the suffix that you will remember for these antibiotics. And then, of course, for the nursing considerations, it's important that we monitor for tendon pain. Watch out for that. Another uniqueness ng fluoroquinolone natin. Especially Achilles tendon pain, there is also a risk for tendonitis, tendon rupture, at yun yung sobrang delikado. Kaya high risk dito yung mga athletes, yung mga elderly natin, and those patients on steroids, kagaya ng prednisone. So we need to educate our patients to be very careful with their activity. If your patients receiving fluoroquinolones suddenly report a cough pain, stop the medication and notify the physician. I will repeat, kapag ang pasyente nag-verbalize na masakit ang kanilang binti, especially the cough muscle, ihinto ang medication at mag-notify immediately sa doktor. Avoid giving antacids, avoid giving iron, zinc, magnesium, and calcium. Kasi ang mga substances na to, they block the absorption of your fluoroquinolones. Kaya, importanteng i-educate ang pasyente 2 hours before or 4 to 6 hours after those recognized substances and medications, tsaka ka magbibigay ng fluoroquinolones. It's either 2 hours bago ka mag-take with all those substances. Again, I will repeat, that includes your zinc, that includes your antacid, your magnesium, calcium, and iron. Or if you've already took those medication, you need to wait 4 to 6 hours. Monitor the QT interval prolongation. Ibig sabihin ng QT interval, we need to observe the ECG of your patients because your fluoroquinolones can mess up with the heart rhythm. Risk for arrhythmias, risk for palpitations, and any sudden cardiac issues si patient. Kaya avoid patients taking amiodarone, sotalol, even your antipsychotics and macrolides kasi ang mga gamot na yan, they prolong the QT. So, watch out for that. So, ibig sabihin, mas hahaba ang QT intervals natin if these substances or these drugs will be given alongside with fluoroquinolones. Assess for central nervous system effects such as dizziness, headache, confusion. It's quite rare pero minsan nagkakaroon ng seizure. Kaya we have to be very cautious among patients with epilepsy, those patients with CNS problems, that includes your stroke patients, or patients experienced or diagnosed with CVA, and those elderly patients. Photosensitivity, specifically sunburn risk. Kaya we need to teach our patient to avoid direct sunlight if they are under the therapy of fluoroquinolones. Use sunscreen, wear long sleeves kapag they are outdoors. And again, check for the kidney function. That includes the urine output, creatinine and BUN levels, and important ang adjustment of dose for those patients with renal impairment. Super infection is also needs to be monitored. Avoid in children and pregnant women. Now, fluoroquinolones affect cartilage development, which means if this will be given to children, the risk of a tendon and joint problems or there is a high chances of the development of tendon and joint problems among kids. So at risk yung mga bata. Do not give this with caffeine because the fluoroquinolones decrease the breakdown of caffeine. So anong nangyayari? Caffeine stays in our body. So caffeine results to nervousness, results to insomnia, and even heart palpitation. So you may write it down. Why we do not give your fluoroquinolones with any caffeinated substance. Of course, that includes coffee because it decreases the breakdown of caffeine. So, naiiwan yun sa serum natin or it stays in our blood. Kaya nagli-lead into nervousness, insomnia, and heart palpitation. Blood sugar is another important aspect kapag nagbibigay ng fluoroquinolones. So we need to watch out your diabetic patients receiving this group of medications. It can cause either hypo or hyperglycemia. Okay? So, class, for you to remember, the group of antibiotics, fluoroquinolones, use your mnemonics FLOR-QT. FLOR-QT, F stands for food binds. This antibiotic has the capability to react with those substances that contains magnesium, that contains iron, those with calcium, and those drugs under the group of antacids. L for liver and kidney monitoring. U for under the sun. Now, it's an activity that the patient needs to avoid. No for activities under the sun because of the risk of photosensitivity. O for observed blood sugar. R for ruptured tendon risk, lalong-lalo na sa mga bata. Kaya nga, QT prolongation, always monitor the cardiac aspect of your patient. And T for teach, no, your patients and other individuals that this group of medication is not for kids, not for pregnant women. Now, let's move on to the other groups of antibiotics. Meron tayong tinatawag penicillin and those penicillinase-resistant antibiotics. Ito ang mga unang klase ng antibiotic na ginamit noon para gamutin yung iba't ibang variety ng bacterial infection. Isa sa pangunahing mechanism of action ng penicillin is yung pagpigil sa pagbuo ng cell wall among bacteria. Kasi kung walang cell wall, kung hindi mabubuo ang cell wall, kung walang cell wall ang bacteria, mas mabilis silang madedestroy. At pag mabilis silang madestroy, mabilis silang mamamatay. Mabilis silang mapepenetrate and then eventually they will be destroyed or they will be killed immediately. Now, ang penicillin natin is effective for those infections known to be your streptococcal infections, pneumococcal infections, those with staphylococcal infections, and all other different types of bacterial infections natin. Now, for the drug samples of penicillins, meron tayong mga iba't ibang classifications. Meron tayong tinatawag na natural penicillins. Ito yung grupo ng mga penicillin G natin. We have your penicillin G benzathine. Ito yung long-acting form. So, please write this down. These are your long-acting forms of penicillin. And your penicillin G benzathine, ibinibigay ito intramuscular. Ito naman ay ginagamit for the treatment of syphilis, management of streptococcal and staphylococcal infections. Now, yung penicillin G potassium naman, short-acting ang antibiotics na ito. Usually, ibinibigay ito using intravenous route. I will repeat, penicillin G potassium are given via IV. Ito ay effective in infections kagaya ng endocarditis and pneumonia. For the penicillin G procaine, ito naman in intermediate acting form. Ito din ay ibinibigay via intramuscular injections and often used for mild to moderate types of infections. Now, the last natural penicillin natin, we have your penicillin V. Ang pangalan nito is phenoxymethylpenicillin. That spells PHENOXYMETHYLPENICILLIN. Phenoxymethylpenicillin. Methylpenicillin. I'm sorry. Phenoxymethylpenicillin. This type of natural penicillin is being given through oral preparation or oral route. And usually, ito yung ginagamit for mild infections natin, like your pharyngitis, like your tonsillitis. Now, for the extended spectrum penicillin, dito pumapasok si amoxicillin, isa sa mga very common antibiotics na alam natin. Of course, oral form ang amoxicillin natin, mas malawak ang spectrum as compared to other natural penicillins natin. Amoxicillin is useful, especially to those conditions such as ear infections, sinusitis, respiratory tract infections, even urinary tract infections. Apart from amoxicillin, we also have ampicillin. Ampicillin is also your antibiotic that can be given oral preparation and intravenous form. Mas malawak ang nasasakupan or ang coverage ng treatment na kayang gawin ni ampicillin as compared to amoxicillin. Pero ito mas madalas ginagamit for respiratory infections, those with urinary, gastrointestinal infections, and some cases kagaya ng meningitis. For the third drug sample of penicillin, we have your penicillinase-resistant antibiotic. This is your anti-staphylococcal penicillin. I will repeat. Your penicillinase-resistant antibiotics are also known to be your anti-staphylococcal penicillins. Ito si nafcillin at saka si oxacillin. Si nafcillin ay ibinibigay intravenous and ito ginagamit for infections caused by penicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. Si oxacillin naman, almost similar din naman si oxacillin kay nafcillin. Nga lang oxacillin can be given intramuscular or intravenous. Ito, very good for staph infections and especially those resistant to those regular penicillin antibiotics. And for you to remember penicillin, so let's use the abbreviation penicillin. P prevents bacteria from building cell wall. E for effective against gram-positive bacteria like your staphylococci, streptococci, and pneumococci bacterials. N for natural penicillin, those your penicillin G and V that can be given oral forms, intramuscular or intravenous. I for indications. Remember kung saan natin ginagamit ang grupo ng antibiotic na ito. C for check allergy first. Remember the cross-sensitivity concept. Another I for intermediate and long-acting forms. That's your procaine and benzathine, those antibiotics. L for large spectrum, especially amoxicillin and ampicillin, extended spectrum yung mga yan. L for laban kay penicillinase. Ibig sabihin, these are the resistant, these are the inhibitors of your penicillinase. Ang gamot natin, oxacillin and napcillin. Another I for infections treated. And N for note the route of administration of this type of antibiotic. Mostly, yan tatlong route of administration lang na yan. Oral, intramuscular, and intravenous. Now, let's talk about sulfonamides. Ano naman ang sulfonamides? Ito ang grupo ng antibiotic na pumipigil sa paggawa ng folic acid ng bakterya. So, remember that sulfo sa pagpigil ng paggawa ng another folic acid. Okay? Pinipigilan nito ang para-aminobenzoic acid or PABA na kailangan ng bakterya para makagawa ng folic acid, which is kailangan ng bacteria si folic acid kasi kailangan niya to sa pag-form or pag-develop, paggawa ng DNA at ng RNA. Kaya kung walang folic acid, walang makakagawa or makaka-form na bacteria. Okay? Kasi nga DNA at RNA ang target ng folic acid in that microorganism. Ginagamit ang sulfonamides, especially those sa mga kondisyon kagaya ng mga UTI, STD, or sexually transmitted diseases. Kaya key points kapag aalalahanin ang salitang sulfonamides, ito ay mga bacteriostatic antibiotics na kung saan kayang pigilan ang bacteria from growing pero hindi niya sila pinapatay. I will repeat. It prevents the growth of the bacteria by preventing the synthesis of folic acid, but it does not kill your bacteria. Sulfonamides are effective for your eye infections, skin infections, UTI, and all other sexually transmitted diseases. Now, examples of your sulfonamides, ang sikat na sikat dito, of course, we have your cotrimoxazole. We also have your sulfadiazine and sulfasalazine. I will repeat, cotrimoxazole ang pinaka-common na piniprescribe ng doktor. Binibigay halos lahat ng sulfonamides natin, oral preparation. But we also have other drug samples, sulfadiazine and sulfasalazine. Now, important nursing considerations as we remember sulfonamides. Always remember, check for allergies. Encourage intake, especially the fluid intake. Now, for the allergy, let me highlight the syndrome. Ang tawag natin is Stevens-Johnson syndrome. Assess the history of a sulfonamide allergy. Make sure that you monitor all those reported rash, hives, or severe reactions, kagaya nga nung tinatawag nating Stevens-Johnson syndrome. Importante ang pag-inom ng maraming tubig kasi ang sulfonamides may kapasidad or may kakayahan mag-create or mag-develop ng crystals, kung tawagin natin mga crystals sa ihi, tawag natin dito crystalluria, or at the same time, kidney stones. So, yung crystallization, nakaka-contribute si sulfonamides. Kaya dapat hydrated si patient. Check for hypersensitivity reactions, yung mga rashes, yung mga swelling, mga itchiness. Basta watch out for that Stevens-Johnson syndrome. Administer with food if needed as much as possible. Dapat may laman ang sikmura. You can give this with food, you can give this with milk para mabawasan yung gastrointestinal irritation. And then check the laboratory values, especially those kidney, kidney function, liver function natin. Avoid direct sunlight. Remember your photosensitivity. Complete the full course. So, dapat matapos ang buong gamutan para gumaling agad ang patients natin at maiwasan yung bacterial resistance. Next, let's move on to tetracycline. Ang tetracycline naman, ito naman yung mga antibiotics. Semi-synthetic ang kanilang properties. Ibig sabihin, pinipigilan nila yung pagbuo ng proteins ng bacteria, kaya hindi dumadami yung bacteria. Now, yung mataas na concentration, maaaring maging makalason sa tao kapag sobrang dami ang concentration ng tetracycline. So, this is also toxic to us. Kaya, importante na correct or tama yung dosage or doses natin. Ginagamit ito para karagdagang gamot sa ilang mga klase ng mga protozoal infections din natin. So, key point natin, your tetracycline is a bacteriostatic antibiotic. It inhibits, highlight, or underline the terminology protein synthesis. It inhibits the protein synthesis tetracycline. Protein tetracycline. Yan ang tandaan ninyo. And then, types of bacterial infections managed. Of course, those with respiratory, urinary, or skin infections. Very common drug sample ng tetracycline natin, walang iba kung hindi doxycycline. But we also have other antibiotics, kagaya ng demicycline. Ito ginagamit lalo na sa kondisyon kung tawagin natin SIAD. Meron ding, sa SIAD ang problema kasi natin dito is yung excess production ng ADH natin, ng antidiuretic hormone, na kung saan paminsan-minsan nangyayari or nagre-result into infection. Si doxycycline naman, it's a widely used type of tetracycline. It can be given oral, it can be given intravenous, very useful for respiratory, urinary, skin infections. Minocycline naman, used for acne, used for respiratory infections, and other resistant bacterial infections. And of course, tetracycline, the original form of this antibiotic, can be given topical, can be given oral, and it could be an adjunct therapy for protozoal infections. Nursing considerations pagdating sa tetracycline, very important that we check the allergy. We assess all those reported signs and symptoms related to hypersensitivity. Bawal na bawal ang tetracycline kay buntis. Bawal na bawal ibigay ang antibiotic na ito sa edad ng pasyente natin mas mababa or mas bata pa sa 8 taong gulang. It can also cause permanent teeth discoloration. So, dapat we administer this properly. Kung via oral, siguro it is best to give this using a straw. Ayan. Or pwedeng gamitin siguro natin malaking baso ng tubig, yan. Tapos wag sasabayan ng gatas or ng antacids or those with iron supplement kasi nakaka-apekto with the absorption. Make sure that your patient is hydrated. There is an adequate fluid intake of your patient. Observe for any gastrointestinal upset, mga increased sensitivity to sunlight, and make sure that there is a complete full course of drug therapy. So tetracycline, for you to remember, let's abbreviate the word the term tetracycline. T for teeth and bone caution or cautious. Be cautious with teeth and bones. E for evaluate allergy. T for take with water. R renal function and hydration. A for avoid sunlight. C check for side effects. L for long course completion. I, interaction. N, notice adjunct uses. And E, educate or for education. We also have the group of antibiotics classified antimycobacterials. Kapag sinabi nating mycobacterial, ito yung grupo ng mga pathogenic bacteria natin na siyang nagiging cause ng sakit kung tawagin natin tuberculosis and leprosy. So, ito yung group of those bacteria causing those infections. Meron tong capability na mag-hold ng stain or outer coat ng mycolic acid, and these are identified to be acid-fast bacteria. Now, eto ngayon, yung antimicrobacterials natin, ang magiging management or magiging therapy natin para puksain itong mga na kilala nating mycobacterial. Kaya ito yung grupo ng gamot na kung tawagin din natin anti-tuberculosis medications because these are your drugs that will help treat tuberculosis. Pagdating sa mga anti-TB drugs natin, meron tayong dalawang grupo. Yung first line drugs natin, sila yung pangunahing gamot laban sa TB. Madalas ito yung ginagamit ng sabay-sabay. But nowadays, with the current generation, nasa iisang tableta na lang halos yung mga iba't ibang klase ng anti-tuberculosis drugs natin. So, ibig sabihin, kapag nagpatuloy ang patient natin with the drug therapy, there is a high chances na ma-overcome or matreat natin yung tuberculosis. Okay? Or makakita tayo ng pagkainam sa ating pasyente or paggaling ng ating pasyente. Ang mga drug samples natin under the first line tuberculosis drugs, you may write down all other informations no, nababanggitin ko. So, let's start with ethambutol. Ang ethambutol ay isa sa mga gamot, first line first line medications for tuberculosis. Ang ethambutol, ang ginagawa niya, pinipigilan yung paggawa ng cell wall ng bakterya. So, cell wall inhibition ang isa sa mechanism of action niya. Madalas sabay ng iba pang tuberculosis drugs ang ethambutol. Meron din tayong tinatawag na isoniazid. Ito yung pinaka-potent, so please write it down. Out of all your anti-tuberculosis drug, the most potent first-line medicine natin is isoniazid. Isoniazid or your INH. Itong isoniazid or INH, ini-inhibit niya yung pag-synthesis ni mycolic acid. Again, si mycolic acid yung isa sa nag-hold sa mycobacteria natin. Next, we have your rifampin. Ang rifampin naman natin, ito isa sa nag-i-inhibit ng bacterial RNA. Broad spectrum ang activity ng rifampin natin. Next, we also have your pyrazinamide. So, ang pyrazinamide natin, isa sa magaling no, na anti-tuberculosis drug kasi pinapatay niya yung mga natutulog na bacteria sa acidic environment. So, si pyrazinamide ang nagpapataas ng acidity within the environment ng affected area ng patients natin, among our patients. Streptomycin aminoglycoside, isa rin itong identified as your antimicrobacterial. Kasama din ito sa mga gamot na ginagamit for tuberculosis kasi kaya niyang pigilan yung paggawa ng proteins among your bacteria. Okay, and then we also have your rifampin. Halos similar kay rifampin, si rifampin, na kung saan long-acting ang gamot na ito at ginagamit in combination therapy. And for the second line of medications natin, meron din tayong tinatawag na mga gamot na kung saan ginagamit ang second line kapag hindi nagiging effective si first line anti-tuberculosis drugs. Ang mga grupo ng gamot natin dito, meron tayong bedaquiline. Si bedaquiline ang ginagamit natin para pigilan ang enzyme sa bacteria na kung saan gumagawa ng ATP kaya namamatay yung mga resistant tuberculosis bacteria natin. Meron din tayong capreomycin. Si capreomycin naman is an aminoglycoside-like antibiotic. So, it inhibits as well the protein synthesis of those resistant tuberculosis. Cycloserine naman, it interferes with the bacterial cell wall. And your ethionamide, ito naman, may inhibit the synthesis of the mycolic acid. Again, for those resistant ones. And rifabutin, ito naman is it inhibits the bacterial RNA synthesis. So basically, the second line medications, antibacterial, antimicrobacterial natin, ito yung mga mas pinalakas na gamot because they have the capability um, um, to fight against those with resistance. Meron din tayong tinatawag na leprostatic medications. Ang leprostatic medications naman natin ay may kapasidad na mag-inhibit ng folate synthesis in susceptible bacteria. Ang gamot na kinoconsider natin dito is dapsone na kung saan may capacity or capability ito na pigilan yung paggawa ng folic acid. So hindi niya pinapatay yung bacteria, there's no bacteriostatic property, pero kaya niyang pigilan yung pagdami ng bacteria by inhibiting or targeting the folic acid. Madalas sinasabay din itong dapsone, itong leprostatic drug natin along with other medications. Kaya pwede din to for multi-drug therapy. So check for nursing considerations pagdating sa antimycobacterials. So watch out for any allergies, monitor for hemolysis, okay? Lalo na dun sa may mga cases kagaya ng G6PD deficiencies. Educate your patients, take the full course, especially those with leprosy treatment, okay, is long term. Monitor the liver function and observe for side effects, especially gastrointestinal, neuropathy, and mga skin adverse effects natin. That includes rashes, no, hives. And yung iba pang klase ng mga antibiotics na binibigay natin, meron tayong tinatawag na mga ketolides. Itong mga ketolides na to, pinipigilan ng paggawa ng protein inside the bacteria. Kaya namamatay yung mga bacteria natin. Ang common ketolides natin is your telithromycin. And for the telithromycin, ito hindi ibinibigay si telithromycin, no, as your ketolides na para i-address or para i-inhibit yung protein synthesis. Then we have your lincosamide. Si lincosamides naman, mga grupo din ng antibiotics that also block the protein synthesis. Ito yung grupo ng gamot, clindamycin, lincomycin, na ginagamit natin kasi pinapatigil ni lincosamides yung paggawa ng protein ng bacteria. So, hindi ulit sila nakaka-continue with the production or with the synthesis of the protein kasi namamatay agad yung bacteria natin. Lipoglycopeptides naman natin. So I will repeat, lipoglycopeptides, these are your antibiotics, semi-synthetic derivatives ng vancomycin, ang mga lipoglycopeptides natin. Kaya ang pangalan ng gamot natin dito is your televancin, and your televancin has the capability to inhibit the bacterial cell wall. So by interfering with polymerization. So when it comes to lipoglycopeptides, remember the term polymerization. Yun ang kanyang tinatrabaho. We also have your oxazolidinones na kung saan, again, it also interferes with your protein synthesis. Pero ito kasing mga oxazolidinones, they act as the MAOIs, yung mga monoamine oxidase natin. Those are antidepressants na kung saan they are effective against vancomycin-resistant strains. So your drug samples are your linezolid and your tedizolid. And last but not the least, meron tayong tinatawag na mga macrolides. Macrolides, dito pumapasok yung mga grupo ng antibiotics, azithromycin, clarithromycin, erythromycin, na kung saan they bind to the subunit of the ribosomes ng ating bacterial cell and they interfere with their protein synthesis. Ayan. For additional information, for the anti-TB medications, no, may isang importante pala akong babanggitin. Remember your rifampicin. Rifampicin, isa sa mga watch out or part of our health teaching some patients urine will experience, or I mean, some patients will experience urine discoloration. So, mas nagiging color orange yung ihi ng patient natin, and that is part of the normal reaction of the drug. So, it's nothing to worry among your patients. It's part of the effects of the drug. Again, I will repeat that anti-tuberculosis drug, rifampicin. And that is the end of our lecture about antibiotics, wherein it is one of those substances that nurses always administer to patients, especially those individuals admitted in the hospital because of different types of infection, different types of bacterial infections. If you have any questions, if you have any concerns about this topic, you may send your query and my email address. Maraming salamat po.